In March 2017, the gaming world was forever changed by the release of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Is it a perfect game? Perhaps not. Is it even the best Zelda game? Well, that would depend on who you ask. What is undeniable, however, is that this game didn't just redefine a beloved franchise, it revolutionized the very essence of what an open world game could be. With its sprawling landscapes, intricate systems, and unprecedented player freedom, Breath of the Wild set a benchmark for the industry. On top of that, what some people may not realize is that this game's influence extends beyond the gameplay itself. Breath of the Wild sits as one of the most important games in Nintendo's long history. But how did it accomplish this? And why does it continue to leave an indelible mark on the gaming world? Allow me to take you through a journey from the beginning of Breath of the Wild's development all the way through Tears of the Kingdom and how we look back on Breath of the Wild today. This is how Breath of the Wild changed gaming. To understand Breath of the Wild's impact, we need to trace back the lineage of the Legend of Zelda series. The argument could be made even before Breath of the Wild that the Legend of Zelda was the most influential video game franchise of all time. There had been adventure games before the Legend of Zelda, notably games like the text-based Colossal Cave Adventure and the graphical follow-up game simply titled Adventure, which was released on the Atari 2600 in 1980. However, the standard for action-adventure games significantly lifted with the release of the original Legend of Zelda game, released in 1986. The original Zelda and its successor, A Link to the Past, were the benchmark for adventure games. These titles introduced expansive worlds, intricate puzzles, and a sense of exploration that was groundbreaking at the time. They gave players the freedom to explore vast dungeons, uncover secrets, and experience a narrative woven into the gameplay, a formula that has become a blueprint for future adventure games. Then came Ocarina of Time in 1998, a game that would forever alter the landscape of gaming. With its revolutionary movement in a 3D space, real-time combat, and expansive world at the time, Ocarina of Time set a new standard for what video games could achieve. The game's lock-on targeting system, dynamic music, and day-night cycle were unprecedented at the time, and have since become staples in many modern games. Its influence is evident in numerous titles, notably game series like The Elder Scrolls, Dark Souls, Assassin's Creed, and more. Despite the ambition of the world of Ocarina of Time, producer of the Zelda series Eiji Aonuma has said on multiple occasions that technological limitations of the Nintendo 64 meant that the game world had to be divided into smaller, more manageable segments. Subsequent titles like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword actually experimented with open world elements through their unique settings, the vast ocean and the skies above, respectively. Wind Waker's expansive sea and Skyward Sword's Sky Islands offered a glimpse into a more open Zelda experience, yet they fell short of a true open world adventure. A game like Wind Waker is beloved, but the ocean's vastness sometimes feels very empty. Skyward Sword aimed to innovate with motion controls and a segmented world structure, but it really didn't capture the freedom of an open world. Despite these attempts to make the game feel more open, the Zelda series' core formula remained largely unchanged after Ocarina of Time. By the time Skyward Sword was released in 2011, the traditional structure of linear dungeons and guided narratives began to feel very repetitive. The series needed a fresh direction. Skyward Sword's reception, while generally positive, showed a growing desire for innovation within the franchise. Fans and critics alike yearned for a Zelda game that could break free from the constraints of its established formula and embrace a new era of Zelda. What was once a franchise that was constantly at the forefront of change, setting the standard for action-adventure gaming, Zelda was now stuck in the past, and something had to change. In 2011, Nintendo announced that a new HD Zelda game was in development for the Wii U. However, the excitement didn't really start to grow until the January 23rd Wii U Direct in 2013. In this Direct, Eiji Aonuma got into some specifics outlining the game's development, outlining the team's goal to break the conventions of Zelda, and divert from the linear approach seen in Skyward Sword. An important piece of context for Nintendo around this time was that they were in a much different position to when they released A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time. The company's reputation as an industry leader had been waning since the GameCube era, and the Wii U's lackluster performance only exacerbated this perception. Despite all efforts from Nintendo, the Wii U struggled to gain traction in the market, lacking the third-party support and iconic games needed to succeed. However, the excitement for Breath of the Wild offered a glimmer of hope for Nintendo and their fans. Early teasers and concept art showcased a vast open world unlike anything seen in previous Zelda games. Key moments such as the 2014 reveal of the game's dynamic weather system and seamless exploration captivated the audiences and hinted at the groundbreaking experience that would be to come. Throughout its development, Breath of the Wild underwent significant changes and refinements. Originally announced as a 2015 release for the Wii U, the game faced multiple delays as the development team worked tirelessly to perfect its ambitious vision. These delays, while frustrating for the fans, ultimately allowed Nintendo to create a game that would far exceed expectations. The excitement surrounding Breath of the Wild continued to build, culminating in the game winning the most anticipated game award at the 2016 Game Awards. This recognition underscored the high stakes and immense pressure on Nintendo to deliver a truly transformative experience. As a Nintendo fan during this Wii U era, we were holding on to this hope for the entire generation, that whilst Nintendo were in a pretty dire situation in terms of their releases and perception, there was still going to be a potentially monumental Zelda game to release that could change everything. If you were interested more in what it felt like to be a Nintendo fan during this era and the positives of it, you should check out my most recent video on the topic. The video will be linked below. Developer interviews and behind-the-scenes footage revealed the meticulous attention to detail and innovation during this game's creation. From rethinking traditional Zelda mechanics to integrating physics-based puzzles and dynamic weather, the development team sought to push the boundaries of what a Zelda game could be. The decision to release Breath of the Wild as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch, in addition to the Wii U, was a strategic move that would prove instrumental in the game's success and Nintendo's revitalization as a company. When Breath of the Wild finally released alongside the Nintendo Switch in March 2017, it was a game changer for the whole industry. The game's critical acclaim and innovative design made the Switch more than just another gimmick console from Nintendo. It became a must-have item for gamers, not just casuals. The simultaneous launch on both the Switch and the Wii U meant that this game had captured the world's attention and would no longer be stuck to die on a console with an install base of around only 13 million. Instead, people would be enticed to try out the new system on the back of this release. Breath of the Wild's success completely revitalized Nintendo's image. It sold millions of copies within the first few months, and its universal praise from critics and players alike solidified its status as a landmark title. In fact, Breath of the Wild on the Switch sold more copies in its first month than the Nintendo Switch consoles themselves. The game itself had many aspects to its gameplay and presentation that caused the gaming world to keep an eye on it. However, we will dive more into the specifics of that later on in this video. The impressive sales figures of Breath of the Wild marked a significant turnaround for Nintendo. The game played a crucial role in the Switch's success, helping the console become one of the best-selling systems of all time. Now compare the launch of the Wii U to the Switch. The Wii U released with a fun but repetitive entry in the Mario series, being New Super Mario Bros. U. Unfortunately, this Mario game wasn't their main selling point for the Wii U. Instead, Nintendo were pushing the gamepad gimmick that wasn't very interesting to most. The selling point of the Switch at launch was that you were able to play Breath of the Wild in however way you seem fit. Breath of the Wild's impact on the Switch and Nintendo as a company was profound. Sure, the success of the Switch also comes down to the constant stream of high-quality titles for years to come, but it all began with the release of Breath of the Wild. Nintendo's reputation that had been tainted from the past 15-odd years was once again restored, and the company once again became a key player in the gaming industry. This is what most people miss when we say that Breath of the Wild changed gaming. Nintendo is now the industry leader, with the Switch changing how we approach playing video games, and it can all be traced back to Breath of the Wild. Now, let's dive into the most important part, and that's what makes Breath of the Wild's gameplay so revolutionary. It set a new standard for open world games, influencing titles like Ghost of Tsushima and Elden Ring. If you would like to hear a very interesting analysis of Breath of the Wild that explains how Ghost of Tsushima and other games were influenced by it gameplay-wise, I would highly recommend a similarly titled video by Another Blown Cartridge. He's a fantastic and underrated YouTuber. I'll leave a link to the video below so you can check it out after this one. Compared to earlier open world games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Skyrim, Breath of the Wild offers a seamless and organic exploration experience. In Skyrim, the world is rich and detailed, but often directs players through questlines and objectives. Breath of the Wild, on the other hand, places a strong emphasis on player choice and discovery. The game's world is crafted to reward curiosity, with hidden shrines, Korok seeds, and environmental puzzles scattered throughout Hyrule. There is no right approach to playing Breath of the Wild. After you leave the tutorial Great Plateau, you can go directly to Calamity Ganon and finish the game if you wish. Divine Beasts can be finished in any order, or they don't even need to be completed at all, despite being main quests. In-game memories were implemented as an ingenious way to feature the story in a completely non-linear way, which is something that pre-existing open-world games may have struggled to do. Nintendo calls the style of game open air, which makes sense to name it something different, especially at the time of release, as it almost felt like the next evolution of open world games. One of the most innovative aspects of Breath of the Wild is its approach to environmental interaction. The game world operates on a complex physics engine, allowing for creative problem solving and experimentation. For instance, players can manipulate metal objects with the magnesis ability, they can use fire to create updrafts, or exploit the chemistry engine to combine elements like electricity and water. This level of interactivity creates a dynamic and immersive experience that encourages players to think outside the box. All of this, alongside the game's ragdoll physics, make the game world feel alive, which is a huge game changer in terms of atmosphere. This gets taken to the next level in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We will touch on that game some more later on in this video. Breath of the Wild also changed the Zelda formula. Traditional dungeon structures were replaced with flexible, puzzle-filled shrines and the divine beasts. The game's emphasis on survival, crafting, and experimentation offered a fresh take on the series. Weapons and items now have durability, requiring players to constantly adapt and find new resources. This mechanic, albeit controversial, adds a layer of strategy and resource management to the game. This whole point is the one area where big-time Zelda fans may grow to dislike Breath of the Wild. In order to accommodate this brand new playstyle, it meant that the traditional Zelda approach had to be left behind for the foreseeable future, which left many traditional hardcore Zelda fans understandably disappointed. Despite what we lost from the old Zelda games, we gained so much more. Exploration in Breath of the Wild is driven by curiosity rather than checkpoints. The game's map is filled with landmarks and areas of interest, each inviting players to investigate and uncover the secrets. You could have your mind set on going to one destination, but you will find yourself going to 10 others before you reach the one you set out for. The ability to climb practically anything in the game and glide from anywhere in the game makes exploring easy, fun, and satisfying. The game's open-ended design has led to a vibrant community of players sharing their discoveries online. From speedrunners finding new ways to complete the game quickly, see wind bombing and bullet time bounces, to casual players exploring every nook and cranny of Hyrule, Breath of the Wild has created a shared experience that continues to thrive years after its release. The game's lasting appeal is a testament to its innovative design and the freedom it offers to the players. Let's take a break from Breath of the Wild and have a look at its sequel released in 2023, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. With Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo built upon Breath of the Wild's foundations. The game introduced new gameplay mechanics and expanded the world even further. While it didn't have the same groundbreaking impact as its predecessor, it solidified and refined the innovations introduced in Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom added depth to the already rich gameplay, offering enhancements and new challenges. New abilities, enemies, areas up above and down below expanded the player's experience. The game also introduced more complex narrative elements. Now, even if the story doesn't follow up on Breath of the Wild the best, and if it convolutes the Zelda timeline, more story beats are added when you are reaching each individual dungeon and doing other side adventures. These additions enriched the game's world and gave fans new content to explore. The biggest addition to Tears of the Kingdom is the Ultra Hand ability. The ability to build whatever you want with whatever objects you wish elevates the potential massively for what you can do in this game. This was such a strong undertaking that I don't think I see it getting praised enough. Ultra Hand might take away from some of the more linear puzzles, but it adds so much more to the game and completely builds upon the mechanics featured in Breath of the Wild. While Tears of the Kingdom may not have the same impact as Breath of the Wild, it received critical acclaim for its refined gameplay and expanded content. The game veers even further away from the Zelda formula, barring a return to more themed dungeons, leading to certain people in the Zelda fanbase growing even more resentment towards the game. However, what is undeniable is that this game solidified the future of 3D Zelda games, and further established what it means for a game to be truly open world. The question needs to be asked, what makes Breath of the Wild special when looking back on it from today's point of view? In today's gaming landscape, there is a growing discourse about games focusing too much on a cinematic experience at the expense of fun and gameplay. Now don't get me wrong, I tend to still really enjoy and appreciate these more cinematic games, and they absolutely have their place in gaming. But Breath of the Wild stands out because it prioritizes exploration and player agency above all else. In an industry where many games emphasize scripted events and linear narratives, Breath of the Wild offers a refreshing alternative. While many modern games prioritize graphics and guided narratives, Breath of the Wild keeps gameplay at its core. The game's design encourages players to interact with the world in meaningful ways, fostering a sense of discovery and wonder. This focus on fun and discovery has led to a widespread acclaim and positioned Nintendo as a leader in the industry, even as other companies struggle with stagnation in a sense. Breath of the Wild's emphasis on player freedom and creativity has resonated with all gamers, regardless really on whether they were a pre-existing Zelda fan or not, creating a universal appeal. The game's success has proven that prioritizing gameplay and exploration can lead to a deeply engaging and memorable experience. Breath of the Wild's impact extends beyond its own success. It has influenced a new generation of open world games, encouraging developers to rethink their approaches to design and player interaction. Previously mentioned games like Ghost of Tsushima and Elden Ring have drawn inspiration from Breath of the Wild's emphasis on exploration and player freedom. This shift in design philosophy represents a broader desire in the industry towards creating more immersive and interactive worlds. As we look towards the future, the question remains, what's next for The Legend of Zelda? Given its monumental success of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the franchise is poised for further innovation. However, it does beg the question, will Nintendo change anything about the Zelda formula again? Well, after the success of Ocarina of Time, the Zelda formula never really changed until Breath of the Wild. We could very well see something similar happening in this new era of Zelda. Will we see even larger worlds, more intricate puzzles, or perhaps a return to some classic elements with a modern twist? Some might speculate that the next Zelda game could explore new settings, such as an interconnected landmass that combines the best elements of previous titles. Others might anticipate further advancements in gameplay mechanics, such as more complex interactions with the environment, like we saw with Ultra Hand. Or maybe we will get deeper narrative integration, and the Zelda timeline will finally make sense. Whatever it is, it will be very hard to predict until we hear more from Nintendo themselves. Developer interviews would indicate a continued focus on innovation and player freedom. The success of Breath of the Wild has set very high expectations, and Nintendo will likely strive to surpass them with the next installment. The next Zelda game will also benefit from advancements in next generation technology. Enhanced graphics, more powerful hardware, and new gameplay possibilities will enable Nintendo to push the boundaries even further. You'd have to imagine that a new open world Zelda game is in development for the Nintendo Switch successor. Especially as we never got DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like they may already be underway with development. As we await official announcements, one thing is certain. The legacy of Breath of the Wild will continue to shape the future of the Legend of Zelda series. Breath of the Wild didn't just change the Legend of Zelda series, it changed the entire gaming industry. Its innovative design, emphasis on exploration, and player freedom have set new standards for what games can achieve. The game's success has revitalized Nintendo, inspired countless developers, and captivated players around the world. Who knows what the state of Nintendo would be, and by association, what the state of gaming would be, without the launch of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. As we look to the future, the impact of Breath of the Wild will continue to resonate. It has shown that prioritizing gameplay and player choice can lead to unforgettable experiences. Whether you're a longtime Zelda fan or a newcomer to the series, Breath of the Wild offers a journey like no other. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you can give it a thumbs up. I'm also planning on continuing to make videos in this style down the line, so stay tuned. And please share your thoughts on the game and the Zelda series in the comments below. That's it for this video. I'll catch you all on the next one.